Hey guys, how's it going? It is Kire here with another Infinite Magicraid video, and in today's video, this is an exciting one because I think we figured out Effect Hit fully. Got the exact formula so you always know if you're going to be able to land a debuff or if you're not going to land a debuff, or if the enemy is not going to be able to land a debuff. This is super useful, and big shout out to Cali6. He was on the Discord. Be sure to, if you guys want to join in the discussion, join the Discord. It's linked down in the description below. But this is massive. So I made a thing to help explain this, made a little infographic here to help explain how Effect Hit works. I figured out about 2 months ago, I want to say, that it seemed like Effect Hit, or at least the disparity between Effect Hit and Effect Resist, actually increases your chances of landing an ability. But this is the actual formula, so you can always know if you're going to land one or not. And basically what it is, effective chance, this is going to be you landing a move, and then equals skill-based chance, which is like, for example, in this example, I'm using moves that have a 70%, a 50%, or a 35%. And that's the actual base of the move there. A big one that I'm using a lot of is, I'm blanking on her name, epic character here, in Visley. So I like to land this move. It's a 70%er. It seemed pretty easy to land based on other ones, like 60% chance moves seem to be relatively easy, but 50%ers, as you can see, they're so much harder to land. That is why it's more difficult. But I wanted to be able to see if it was possible for these other ones. It looks like, because there was also the confirmation from the devs when they said that 50%ers can land when you have 100% more affected over them. Like if I would need 130%, they would need 30%, which is very difficult when in reality you're trying to push content. They have like 80, you would need 180. For example. So it's like skill-based chance, then times 1 plus effect hit minus effect resistance. That's how simple the formula is, but it changes massively based on the enemies you're facing, but mostly the skill-based chance really has a big difference in if the move is going to land. And this whole infographic is just mainly showing at 100%. Maybe if you don't have enough effect hit, you could use the same formula and see what the chance actually increases to. Yeah, but the 1 equals 100% for this one right here. So what I want to do is have multiple examples, all using the dungeon level 26. So at level 26, the effect resistance is 64%. So I figured that was a pretty typical thing, that it's a big milestone level that people are kind of focusing on. I didn't want to choose one that's harder, and then it also helps explain the concept for people. That's why I chose 64% or dungeon level 26. And for a move to land with 100% certainty, if you have it at a 70% chance, you need about 106.857 effect hit. So just round it up to like 107, 108, whatever. If you hit that effect hit threshold, you will guarantee to land that ability. So if you're running Visley, for example, and you want to know that you're going to land that attack down, you just need to have 107% effect hit, and then you're going to land it. Whereas, let's say you're running Nicholas, and you want to guarantee you're going to land the stun, or his freeze, I should say. Then you would need 164% effect hit in this scenario for that to land. But then here's another example that I want to show just how crazy it could be, and this is more hypothetical because I don't have the gear to be able to test this. I'm thinking about something where I can test it with an aura and then Verdo and then my best gear, and then see if I can maybe test this, but I would also need to level up the character. But here it is, what is his name? He is in the Dragon Tribe, and it is this guy here in Joseph. So he has a 35% chance to land this attack down 2, or 30%. So even worse. But for example, with people that have 35%, here is the math. We'd have to do a little bit more math to figure out what his chance is. But I wanted to highlight someone like this because he can actually be really beneficial in this, in Faction Abyss. Because I think the Dragon Tribe faction probably has the best chance of being able to push through. But what if you had a 100% chance to land an attack down 2 in that as well? I think that would actually be pretty insane. So that's why I did the math here on 35%, and you need 250% effect hit if you want to guarantee land this ability. This is something that I haven't tested fully, but the other ones I have, and would be interesting to see if someone has the gear for this and wants to try this out. That would be awesome to be able to see this, because a lot of these testing, you can't figure this out in the normal testing environment. You need to have the gear for this because they only let you have a disparity of 100, because I can go 100 or 0 and that's it. I can't go like 200% to 0. It's just not possible in that testing environment, which is a flaw in the testing environment, and kind of unfortunate. But that's just the reality of the situation, that we're going to need to be able to grind this if we want to be able to test this out. And then next, this is something that Kire 6 also highlighted that was very interesting, is being able to resist a debuff. What you need to know to be able to 100% resist it. And the thing that is interesting that does not matter is the skill-based chance. So it doesn't matter if it's a 70%er or a 50%er or a 35%er. All that matters is that you have 100% effect resist over their effect hit, and it won't work. It will resist the move. So once you have 100, then you're good. Which is interesting. So in certain situations, maybe if you want to guarantee that they can't land a debuff in PvE, then you know exactly how much effect hit they have, and you can make sure every single person has 100% effect resistance over that, and then you're good to go, which I think is going to be incredibly difficult to do, in my opinion, unless you supplement this with someone that can reduce their effect hit chance, for example, because gearing Pollen was surprisingly difficult to be able to get them to 100% effect res. So it's also a stat that I haven't really focused on too much, in my opinion. So that could be another reason why it was so difficult for me to get him to 100%. But at the same time, that is good to know. Maybe if for arena, like when you have in advanced arena, for example, or if you're trying to push through harder stages, like I was thinking maybe in Marius, for example, with the freeze, you can try something like that. But if you're pushing up harder versions of that, I think it's going to be very difficult to get 100% over their effect hit. But it is nice to know that you can guarantee resist the debuff if you can just get over 100% on the effect res over their effect hit, which I think is pretty cool that we at least know guaranteed there. And then here, I'm going to do the math really quick on 30% and come back to this because I am curious on how much effective we're actually going to need to get a 100% chance with a Joseph here. Okay, so here I am back with this, and this is actually kind of hilarious on just how much more it takes for an extra 5%. And it's another 50% effect hit, which I think is just not possible. I wonder what the best amount of effect hit you can possibly get would be. You know, like let's say you have the 27% aura, you have Verdo on the team, you have the 50% effect resist down on the enemy. I wonder how much of a disparity people can get in this game with like super nutty gear. But there it is. That's how much it would be if you want to be able to guaranteed land that as a 30% chance move. So how I like to actually do the math here is I basically just solve for X when it comes to finding the effect hit. So it's like what I'll do is I'll take, because I only care about 100%. I mean, this is not something that you need to go to 100% or useless if it's not 100%. But for example, I go 1 equals 0.7, for example, times X, and then I'll just divide 1 divided by 0.7, and then that equals the full amount, and then I should just subtract that full amount I get minus whatever the effect resistance is. So for example, I'll go like 1 divided by 0.7, that equals 1.4285, and then there's other digits in there, and then I subtract that by 0.36 because we have 1 plus effect hit minus 0.64. That leaves me with 0.36. I have to be able to 0.36 plus whatever the effect hit I needs to equal 1.4 to whatever I just said earlier. So I know that if I just subtract those two, boom, I have my X, which is also my effect hit, and then I am done. The one that's super easy is the 0.5 because you know that it needs to equal 2, like at the end of it. Because if it's 0.5 times 2, you know that equals 1. So it's very simple to find that math there. That's why there's no decimals or whatever on that number there. But very useful formula for being able to discover this. I think this game, especially compared to Raid. So in Raid, there's always, regardless of how much accuracy you have, there's always a 0.3, or not 0.3, there's a 3% chance of it just being resisted. So you have to find these characters that have like defense down 2, for example, that's unresistible. Whereas in this game, you don't have to worry about that at all. Eventually, if you can get enough effect hit, yes, I know that these other ones are incredibly high, and we're probably only going to be able to focus on realistically things that have a 50% chance to be able to land. Maybe these these 35% chancers, but the fact that we can guarantee it, I think, is so much better than how Raid does it, where you have that random 3%er and that's going to ruin runs. So if you want to have a consistent run that always works and you can guarantee it, you can actually do that in this game without needing to pull a crazy character that has an unresistible X effect like Raid has. So I do appreciate that in this game. Also, it really answers the question on why it was so weird that every effect in this game didn't have a 100%er chance. Because in Raid, that's another thing. Like these effects, like Defense Down 2, for example, all of them are 100%er chances in that game. So it's just bizarre that it's like that. So I think this finally solves those weird issues with this game. They really need to have this explanation in game. This is just really dumb that it's not, but I'm glad that it's at least solved for now, and I can share it in a video. So curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below. If you guys have any questions, be sure to join the Discord. This is pinned in the general section of the Discord if you want to see the formula there instead of in this video here. And with that, guys, I'm out of here. Peace.